Good morning, everyone. We are from Group 2, and before we start, let me introduce you to our group members. Here we have me, Ilham Nugraha, Ghea, Fajri, Silmi, Bilqis, Elora, Nuro, Anggi Agustina, Rachma Dianty, Tanti, Permata, Sari, and finally we have Wina, Pujianita, Wibowo. Today we will continue our discussion about teaching materials. In the previous session, we learned about instructional material. Instructional materials are all the things that teacher use to help students learn. They can be textbooks, worksheet, videos, audio recordings, or even objects. And it is important because they give language input, guide students in practice, and connect classroom in learning with real-life situation. And now, after knowing what instructional materials are, the next step is to check whether those materials are good and effective. And this step is called material evaluations. So let's move on to the definitions. Definition of material evaluations. Material evaluation is the process of assessing the value or potential of learning materials. So this evaluation is not only looks at the content of books or materials, but also assess their impact on teachers and students. In other words, we ask, do these materials really help in learning? So it is important because when we evaluate, we usually check is the material interesting and motivating? Is it reliable and correct? And does it help students learn in the short term, like for tests in the long term, like for communication? And in short, that material preparation is very important because it helps teacher choose the best material for the students, adapt the necessary, and make sure learning goals are achieved. Uh, that's it, I think, and I will now I will hand it over to my partner to explain about purpose of the material evaluations.
Okay, thank you. So for the purpose is first, this is to adopt and select appropriate new course book. So it helps teachers pick the right books that fit students' needs and class goals. And the second is to identify strengths and weaknesses of existing materials. They show what parts of the book work well and what parts don't. And the third is to compare different course books fairly using common criteria. So it makes it easier to compare books using the same standards. And the fourth is to support teachers' development by providing insight into materials. It gives teachers new ideas and help them grow in teaching. And the last is to train students, teachers in recognizing key features and exploring a variety of published resources. So it trains future teachers to notice important features and try out different books. Next.
And for criteria considered should be first is appeal credibility, validity, and reliability. And the first thing is, does it looks and feel engaging? Material should be attractive enough to catch learners' attention, but also trustworthy. They need to be accurate, reflect real language use, and work well in different situations without losing their effectiveness. Second is motivation for learners and teachers. Good materials should make learners want to learn more. At the same time, they should also keep teachers excited about teaching. And when students are motivated, lessons become more active and enjoyable. And third is short and long-term learning. Some materials only help students pass tests or finish a task, but the best ones also support their long-term learning. For example, materials that encourage thinking, problem solving, or independent learning will be benefit them even outside in the classroom. And fourth is perceived value by users. It's important that both students and teachers feel the materials are actually useful. If they see the content as relevant and practical, they'll be more willing to use it and put effort into learning with it. And fifth is flexibility and teacher support. Teachers shouldn't feel restricted by the materials. Instead, the material should give room to adapt according to different student needs. Clear instruction, teacher's guide, or extra resources also make the teaching process much smoother. And the last is alignment with requirements. Finally, materials have to fit with the curriculum or institutional goals. Even if something looks interesting, if it doesn't meet the schools or the education system standards, it won't be practical to use it in class. So the next part will be delivered by Bilqis.
Okay, for the next part is the types of evaluation. There are three main types of evaluation for materials. The first one is pre-as evaluation. This type is about making predictions about the potential value of materials for their users. And the purpose is to make predictions about the potential value, the materials for the users, and in other words, we try to judge whether the material will be useful, interesting, and appropriate even before it is used in the classrooms. And the second one is Will's use evaluation. This evaluation is carried out during the use of the materials. Here we focus on measuring the value of the materials while they are being used or while we are observing students using them. This helps us see in real time whether the material is effective and engaging. And finally, we have post-use evaluation. This is done after the materials have been used. The aim is to measure the actual factual effects of the materials on the learners. So here we can identify strengths and weaknesses of the materials and decide whether we want to keep using them, adapt them, or replace them with something better. So to summarize this, pre-use evaluation is about predicting. Will's use evaluation is about observing in action, and post-use evaluation is about measuring the real outcomes. The next part will be delivered by Anggi.
Okay, so here we have material adaptation. Basically, it means that we change or adjust existing learning material so that they better fit needs of students, teacher, and the learning situation. Sometimes the book we use might not give enough practice, or maybe it's not very clear, so teachers need to adapt it. And in material adaptation, we have two types. The first is adaptation as addition and adaptation as change. So for the adaptation as addition, this is simply means that we add something to make the material more useful, and there are three ways to do this. First, extension. So this is when we add more of the same type of exercise. For example, if the book only has a few vocabulary activities, the teacher might prepare extra ones so students can practice more. And second is supplementation, and this is when we bring the new exercise from another sources or even create our own task. So if the book doesn't cover enough grammar practice, we can add like worksheets or activities from outside. And the last one is extemporization, and this is when the teacher rephrase or explain the material in simpler words to make sure that the students really understand about the material. Next, adaptation as a change will be delivered by Ghea.
Okay, so now let's move to adaptation as a change. Adaptation adaptation as a change means modifying or adjusting the existing materials to make them more suitable for our students' needs. Instead of just adding more activities, here we change what is already in the book. There are 4 common ways to do this. First is omission. Sometimes we skip or remove parts of the material. This happens if students already know the topic. If there are too many activities or the content is not important or poorly designed. And second is replacement. We replace certain tasks or text with something more suitable. This is useful if the material is too long, not clear, or doesn't match students' needs or learning level. Third is reordering. We change the order of the material. For example, we might teach topic earlier than the book suggests, or arrange topics to make them easier to compare, connect, or follow up. And the last is changing the form of task. Sometimes the activity type doesn't fit the student's learning style. In this case, we can change the form of the task. For example, turning a reading activity into a group discussion or changing a written drill into a game or make it more engaging. Adaptation exchange helps teachers make course books more flexible and effective so that the learning process really match students' needs. So the next presentation will be presented by Rahma.
Okay, next is the reason for the adaptation. When we use a course book, it doesn't always fit with our classroom situation. That's why the teacher often adapt the materials. For the first reason is mismatch between materials and teaching environment. For the example, the book may suggest group work, but the situation of the classroom setting or time available makes it hard to do. So the second is mismatch between learning style implied by materials and learning style of most learners in the class. The learning style in the book may be not matched with the learning style students use in the classroom. Maybe the book focus on too much on the grammar or reading, while the student prefer learned in speaking activities. The third is mismatch between instruction in materials and teacher on personality, beliefs, and teaching style. Every teachers also have their own teaching learning style and beliefs. If the books give instruction too much on speaking or reading and the teacher feel that is unnatural, the teacher allowed to adapt the materials into teacher style or teacher approach. And the fourth is mismatch between course objective and focus of book. The course objective and the book focus are not always the same. For example, the syllabus might be emphasized on speaking or communication, but the book gives too much on grammar. So, adapting materials help make learning and more effective, relevant, comfortable for both teachers and students. Next, the conclusion. Evaluation and adaptation of teaching materials are important to ensure the materials match the learning objectives, student needs, and classroom context. Evaluation helps assess strengths and weaknesses, while adaptation allows adjustment to the materials more relevant and effective. As such, both of them play a role in improving the quality of English language learning. So that's all the explanation from our group about material evaluation. If you have any question, feel free to ask in the comment box. Thank you.